Hello. So our Bible study today is from the book of Ruth. And the story of Ruth is that there was an Israelite lady named Naomi. And she was from Bethlehem. And she moved away from Bethlehem with her husband and her two sons. Well, when they moved away, eventually her husband died and her two sons also died. And so Naomi was really upset, and she had to go back to Bethlehem because she didn't have anyone to take care of her. And back in those days, the men took care of the women. So she was going back to Bethlehem, and she told her two daughter-in-laws, the wives of her sons who had died, she told them they needed to go back to their own homes. They were Moabite women, they weren't Israelites. And one of them, Ruth, said that she was not going to go back home to Moab, that she was going to go with Naomi. And so they went back to Bethlehem. And so the book of Ruth is mainly about Ruth, but I wanted to talk about Naomi today. So in Ruth chapter 1 verse 20 it says that and this is when she's gone back to Bethlehem, and all the people in Bethlehem are like, "Hey, it's Naomi, it's so good to see you, Naomi, we're glad you're back home." And this is what she says, Ruth chapter 1 verse 20. But she said, "Don't call me Naomi, call me bitter, the strong one. God has dealt me a bitter blow. I left here full of life, and God has brought me back with nothing but the clothes on my back. Why would you call me Naomi? God certainly doesn't. The strong one ruined me." So she's really upset, and she's blaming God, right? Well, let's move forward a chapter, to chapter 2, verse 20, and it says, Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Why, God bless that man." And what she's talking about is Ruth had gone out to collect some grain from the fields, and the owner of the field, whose name was Boaz, told her, "It's okay if you collect grain from my field." And he really blessed her, and she took home a lot of grain and a lot of food. And so this is why Naomi is saying, "Why, God bless that man Boaz." And then Naomi says, "God hasn't quite walked out on us after all. He still loves us in bad times as well as good." So Naomi had a real change of heart. Remember in chapter 1, she said, "Just call me bitter. Don't even call me Naomi. God has ruined me." And then in the second chapter, she realizes God hasn't walked out on us. He still loves us in bad times as well as good. So she goes from despair to hope. So what happened here is Naomi was influenced by her circumstances. She was influenced by what was going on around her. She didn't realize that God had a plan to take care of her. God knew that Ruth was going to go home with Naomi. God knew that Boaz was going to help Ruth and make sure that she had enough food. The plan was there all along. So how about with us? Just because we're going through something hard or tough, that doesn't mean that it's not part of God's plan or that He has left us or stopped loving us. That's what Naomi thought. So we have to make sure that we don't allow our circumstances to influence our outlook. We have to remember that God will come through in the end, even if it seems like He won't. If we trust Him and remember that He knows the future, and that we can remain confident even through bad circumstances, then things will be a lot better. So we have to put our confidence in God. We have to give our life and give our circumstances to Him, and remember that He is sovereign, that He is in control of everything. Nothing surprises Him. He knows the plan. So we have to give everything to Him, and we have to avoid trying to take back control of our circumstances, but just remember that God is in control, and that's the way we want to keep it. Love you. Bye.